Hello and welcome to Making Worlds, conversations about imagining otherwise. I'm Hannah McGregor. I'm an academic, a writer, a podcaster, and magical, not necessarily a girl, but for sure magical. And that is my sneak peek on what we're going to be talking about today. On this show, I talk to cool people about science fiction, fantasy, speculative fiction, magical realism, and other genres that give us the opportunity to imagine how the world might be otherwise. Today, I've invited real-life magical girl Diamond Atkins to talk about magical girls and the way that they represent the empowering possibilities of reclaiming femininity. Diamond is a Gemini and a lover of anime, cartoons, YA books, and all things Hello Kitty. She's a longtime magical girl who enjoys thinking deeply about the media she consumes. When not out drinking bubble tea with her friends, you can find her reading or gaming. Welcome, Diamond.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I am really excited to talk about being Geminis and all the things that involves. So let's just forget about magical girls. Kidding. We're going to talk about magical girls. And actually, where I would like to start is if you could give us a definition for our audience of what a magical girl is.
So, a magical girl, it's a genre in the shoujo demographic of manga. Shoujo basically means the Japanese word for young girl. So like the demographic is from 12 to 18. Manga is Japanese graphic novels, and so in this genre, you usually see girls within that age range, so like 12 to usually like 18, with magical powers. Sometimes they're given their powers, sometimes they're born with them, sometimes they have to be awoken. But usually it's girls trying to juggle their newfound magical abilities and then their regular teenage lives.
Yeah, my God. But I mean, beautifully summarized. Great job. I immediately think of the stories. I didn't read a lot of manga when I was young. I think partially it was that I'm just a bit too old for the sort of like manga invasion in North America. Like it just wasn't present to the same degree. I certainly was obsessed with finding any stories about girls with magical powers. That's all I wanted to read.
Same.
Witches, girl wizards, girls who could somehow talk to horses. Ideally, girl wizards who could somehow talk to horses. And so I relate so powerfully to this desire for like, I want a girl who's a girl just like me, except spells.
Mm-hmm. I remember from like ages like I would say like 10 to maybe like probably like 17, I wanted so desperately to be a magical girl. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll find like a magical stone, or like this stray cat I'm petting will like let me know, like, oh, you're like magical. And I had to give up when I went to college because you can't juggle, academia with like saving the day.
I mean, tell Buffy in the later seasons. It's hard. It's really hard to do. Okay, so my go-to magical girl reference is Sailor Moon. I think that's probably the only magical girl series I have watched. I assume you are also. I mean, I assume this based on the beautiful Sailor Moon scroll hanging behind your head right now that perhaps you are also a Sailor Moon fan.
Yes, she was the first one I ever stumbled across. We got like a pretty kind of janky American localization back when I was like a kid. But it would air like on Cartoon Network like after school. So I remember like watching it like every day after school, and then going to friends' houses and like watching the movies and just like being obsessed.
Yeah, yeah. I also vividly remember, I think I might have been in high school when it came out, but I vividly remember it coming to YTV in Canada. That's where we got it. And then not super long after, I also started watching Cardcaptor Sakura. I'm remembering now, which I also remember just the outfits, like in that show in particular, just and like her best friend designs her outfits. Like they spend a lot of time in the show talking about the outfits.
I think even in the manga, there's like breakdowns of like her outfit details. So you could like recreate them yourselves if you wanted to. So it's just like,
Oh my god.
yeah, the dream.
So how much of the popularity of magical girls is related to like cosplay, like recreating the outfits yourself, wanting to sort of reproduce the aesthetics?
I would say that's a lot of people's like first intro into cosplay, because it's really easy to like be inspired by like those outfits. They're super iconic, and it's like easy to like get your friend to convince your friends to dress up as like the girls from Sailor Moon rather than like like another anime they may not have heard of.
Is it easy to convince your friends to dress up like the girls from Sailor Moon?
My friends.
You might be more convincing than I am. Have you done that? Have you done a group Sailor Scouts costume?
I'm not actually into cosplay, surprisingly enough.
Oh, okay. So tell me more about what your like magical girl fandom looks like in your life.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of like adapting like different aesthetics. So like dressing like hyper femme or like wearing like like super cute like hair clips like I have in my hair today. Just being like I feel like in society you're kind of like encouraged to like kind of dress like more like an adult, but like for me, since I kind of want to like and have like more of like a magical girl aesthetic, I'm like wearing bright colors or super cute stuff or like stuff you usually wouldn't see on like a 28-year-old woman.
I mean, obviously I relate. I could not be less interested in dressing in a way that is appropriate for my age. But let's delve into this like girl aesthetics thing because you said you started watching Sailor Moon as a kid at a time when presumably it was like fine to dress as a girl, to be girly, but was there still like kind of a an empowering dimension to seeing girlishness, girlhood, the concerns of girls being centered in these stories?
Oh yeah, for sure. 'Cause especially like when I started to gain more into magical girls, I was like a preteen going into a teenager, so that was like up against like the not like other girls era that was happening in like YA books. And so yeah.
Oh no, what a bad era.
Really though. So just like them being like hyper feminine and them centering more the importance of like their friendships and their bonds with like their team and like the men in their lives being like an afterthought kind of like they were still there but they were like not as important as like saving Tokyo
Yeah,
and
they
keeping
show up, they throw a rose, they take off again. That's all I need from you.
exactly I got this me and my gals got this. So it's just interesting, like that being like juxtaposed between like that and like the popular YA books of the day, where like you're trying to decide between like two mediocre men.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is like really countered to the sort of the logics of a series like Twilight where female friendship is profoundly secondary to the actual concern, which is like heterosexual romance.
Like she barely even like gives her friends like a second thought.
And is very much one of those not like other girls. Um, and you're right. When I think of Sailor Moon, I think of the Sailor Scouts. Like I think of their relations and um, like the literal magic that comes from expanding their network and the way that their powers enhance each other's powers and they become collectively more powerful. Like, and that's so frequently what the narratively what we're meant to be concerned with is these friendships.
Yeah, and even the fact that they were like still friends, like connected through time. So like they were like friends in like this the Moon Kingdom, and then they were reborn, and then once again still connected by their friendship and like their past lives.
Man, Diamond, can you explain to me what the Moon Kingdom is and how it existed in the past?
Yeah, so in Sailor Moon, it follows, our main character, Serena, if you watched like the English dub, or Usagi if you watch the Japanese dub. But basically, the Moon Kingdom is their past life. Our main character was the Moon Princess. Basically, all the planets have kingdoms, and each of the Sailor Scouts was like a princess of that kingdom. But the moon, for some reason, was like the main like kingdom in charge.
I mean, doesn't
Um,
make a lick of sense, not even a planet, but that's fun.
the aesthetics are great though.
Yeah, exactly.
And so she was the princess of the Moon Kingdom in charge of, the Millennium Crystal, which gives her powers. And then one day, because I believe because Queen Beryl was jealous, and so she like causes a war between the Earth and then the Moon Kingdom. And Tuxedo Mask is actually the Prince of Earth. Um,
Tuxedo Mask is the prince of the entire planet of Earth?
yes.
That doesn't seem right. That doesn't seem like how our planet works.
And so the war between Earth and the Moon Kingdom causes the Moon Kingdom's destruction. And so uh, Princess Serenity, who is Sailor Moon's mother, in like a last ditch effort, like puts her and the Sailor Scouts in like a deep sleep and sends them all into Earth to be reborn after the Moon Kingdom falls.
And why doesn't Earth remember fighting the moon? Okay,
Magic.
you know what? Okay. The wrong question. I'm asking the wrong questions. I love this. I mean, it's at its root a chosen one narrative, right? Like this
Hmm.
kind of, you think that you are a regular everyday person, and then you find out one day that you're actually special in some way. And generally those narratives are about boys. Like if you're
Hmm.
gonna be chosen, if you're gonna find out that you're powerful, then chances are that you are going to be a straight white man, because
Hmm.
that is who gets to let's say, usually be the prince of earth, so to speak.
The whole Earth, yes.
The whole entire earth. And so it is so exciting, just like even still now as a full adult. I'm so excited when I see girlhood celebrated and taken seriously. But what really intrigues me about what you've been saying is the idea of then bringing that girlhood and that celebration of femininity and that celebration of that aesthetics through into adulthood. And so I'm going to suggest that we dive a little deeper into that. Diamond, I want you to tell me a little bit more about what it means for you as a whole ass adult to be celebrating magical girl aesthetics.
Yeah, it's just like a reminder of like your own like internal power. Because a lot of the times with like magical girl shows, they have to like draw from like power, their own like power within to like save the day or get the job done. It's also a reminder of like trying to like achieve like your higher self. So like they get to transform. Like say like a chant or like pull out like a magical item and transform into like a more superpowered version of yourself. But as an adult, you kind of have to like look within and try to like pull out that power to like be your own like magical girl.
Yeah, you can still twirl when you do it, but
Yeah,
the
sometimes it actually
twirling's
helps.
not what creates the transformation. It's just kind of a fun additional bit you can do.
Yeah. Or even just like dressing like in like a more like magical girl inspired way kind of like gives you more like confidence because like if you're like shining on the outside, it's a little easier to shine on the inside as well.
It is such an interesting sort of refusal of those logics of what does an adult dress like? What does a professional person dress like? Which we know are like a set of arbitrarily created social standards that are themselves deeply rooted in things like the patriarchy and white supremacy and fat phobia and heteronormativity and all of these other things that tell us that, like, here are the ways in which you must constrain and reshape your body and your outward presentation in order to have people take you seriously. So that refusal is simultaneously fun and radical.
Hmm. And it's also like a great reminder just to like do like live like how you want to live because it's like you could like dress like an adult would dress or you could like align yourself more with like who you really want to be and like what you want to look like.
Yeah. Yeah, you can actually just be a big gay clown. Turns out nobody can stop you.
Exactly, if you pay your own bills, who's to stop you?
Yeah. Listen, I'm paying my mortgage so nobody can control the amount of eyeshadow that I wear. So can we talk a little bit more about the particular fandom of black magical girls?
Yeah, it's something I stumbled into when I first started getting on TikTok during the pandemic. I found like a lot more of like black anime community on TikTok, which was like really nice, especially during the pandemic. Because growing up, I grew up in like on the west side of Washington, like in like predominantly white schools. It was definitely kind of like not only was anime not like popular, but like finding black kids who are also into anime was like super rare, especially outside of my family. And so just like finding that like community on TikTok was like amazing. And then Black Magical Girls, it's still growing. There's like stuff here and there and like mostly like indie projects, and you can't really blame it because most of it Magical Girl stuff is from Japan, and which is like a homogenous culture. But like there's like, definitely like a growing kind of like movement of like black girls like cosplaying magical girls and starting their own like indie projects involving like magical girls.
Can you tell me a little bit more about like what those indie projects might look like?
Yeah, so my favorite one, it's Magical Melody. She's also a Seattle native. So basically, she like writes and directs like her own like magical girl show, and like she has like her friends and like her boyfriend playing like the different characters in the magical girl show, and it's definitely like '90s like magical girl like inspired. So like lot of soft aesthetics, a lot of like soft music playing. Um, it's very fun though. Very fun.
I love that. And it is so interesting because as you pointed out, Japanese culture can be really homogeneous. And I think that there is quite a lot of anti-blackness in Japan as well. And so this sort of taking up those aesthetics and repurposing them as, a celebration and also like a fan practice of remaking um feels so so joyful.
Mhm. Mhm. And it's also nice cuz like as like black women like often like our femininity is often like discounted or we're seen through like a more like masculine lens. And so like kind of like reclaiming the magical girl like aesthetic which is like hyper feminine is like another way to like, empower my own like femininity.
Yeah, 100%. The sort of vocabulary of black femininity is also hypersexualized, right? By mainstream media, and we see all of these examples of black girls being sexualized at young ages. And so this claiming of a hyper feminine aesthetic that's also rooted in a kind of um like not super sexualized girlhood, right? That is about like bows and frills and barrettes and glitter and these things that are, yeah, about sort of a femininity that is for us, like a femininity that is not about attracting a male gaze, but is actually just about celebrating what femininity means.
Exactly.
Okay, so you mentioned that the sort of black magical girl community is one that you've been seeing sort of emerging on sites like TikTok over the pandemic. Can you talk about like black anime fandom more generally?
Yeah, there's actually a black anime convention called BlairdCon, and a Blaird is a black nerd.
I am familiar with and a big fan of blurred culture.
Yeah, it's I believe it takes place in on the East Coast in Virginia. I haven't been able to like attend just yet because that's all the way across the coast from where I'm at.
So far away.
I know, but one day I do hope to go because it looks like it's a lot of fun. And then there's just like um, a lot of like black content creators on TikTok who like discuss anime deeply. It's just kind of like been like a really nice community to find, like especially during like the pandemic when like you're kind of like isolated. It's kind of like a beautiful like gem to kind of find like in like a dark time.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that there is something particular about anime that is attractive to black nerds?
There actually has been like a lot of discussions about it. A lot of like anime like main characters are usually like like not having like the best time where they're at.
Sorry. Sorry. I love not having the best time. Okay. Sorry, keep going.
But it's like nice to like see like a character who's like not having the best time, but kind of like pull themselves out of like their like circumstances by either like training really hard or like using their own like internal power, you know. Because most like of most anime characters, like the main characters, you like delinquents or like they're not like, you know, the top students or whatever. Or they're like usually some part of society is kind of like against them, and so like I think as like a black person, it's kind of like a nice like escapism to be like, oh, like look at them like go and like, you know, have their adventures and change their lives and like, you know.
Yeah, that's so interesting because I feel like on the one hand, there is that like really vital reminder of like your actual internal power and value is not determined by the way that people treat you or the way that they frame you,
Mhm.
right? That like really central, like, no, 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 you don't get to say if I'm magical or not. I say if I'm magical or not.
Mhm.
And then at the same time as a fantasy, as you point out, it's also like it's it's got a little bit of bootstraps to it. But that's always a subtext of a chosen one narrative, isn't it?
Mhm. Yeah, like trying to like, you know, like you pulled yourself out of like whatever situation to like defeat the big bad.
Yeah, and like your specialness is contingent on other people not being special. But but fandom is really different in the sense that like yes, it is about a particular person being special. Like the property might be about a particular person being special, but fandom is about sharing and community. So it's not just this like finding your inner power, but it's also then in turn about finding other people who are also feel empowered or excited or just delighted by these stories.
Oh yeah, especially since like it wasn't like a lot of kids who are like in the anime are kind of like usually kind of on the outskirts of like the social circles anyway. And so
What?
like
No.
yeah, who would have thought? And so like finding like community like together has always been like super nice, which is like why I like the convention so much because it's like, oh my gosh, like everyone here is like into like either the same thing I'm into or something like of the same vein that I'm into, and like everyone's like pretty understanding and have had like similar experiences with like coming to fandom.
Yeah. So we're starting a Kickstarter to fly you to that conference, right? Is this what we're saying?
That's what I was promised.
You know what? Fair. Okay, Diamond, are you feeling emotionally and spiritually prepared to do a Mad Lib with me? Okay,
Yes.
so the way
Yes, I
that a
was
Mad
prepared.
Lib works
Yes.
is that I'm going to tell you the kind of word that you have to give me, and then you're going to give me that word. And then Zoe's going to plug them into a pre written passage, and then I'm going to read it out loud to you, and then everybody's going to have a real good time. Are you ready?
Yes.
Great. Okay, first step I need a place,
Pennsylvania.
an object,
A ball.
an animal,
A raccoon.
a name, like a person's name.
Emily.
And now another name, but specifically, this needs to be a magical girl name.
Ooh. How about Sakura?
A villain name.
Rebecca.
That's got real Becky with the good hair vibes for sure. Okay, now I need something cartoonishly evil that Rebecca might be up to.
Stealing puppies.
So good. Just stealing, like to keep them or to.
That's the evil part. We don't know.
We don't know. We don't know what Rebecca's plans are with the puppies. Okay, we need another object.
Microwave.
All right. Ready? We've custom made you your own uh fan made magical girl franchise.
Ooh, okay, I'm excited.
Okay. You are in Pennsylvania looking for a brand new ball when your magical raccoon sidekick, Emily, Emily, says, Sakura, I've got bad news. Rebecca's stealing puppies yet again. You activate your magical microwave and transform into your alter ego. Wow.
Ooh.
The word ego suddenly really sounded wrong to me. But that is the word. It's an alter ego. You transform into your alter ego, Sakura. You are ready to defeat the evil Rebecca with the power of friendship.
Hooray.
It would be pretty inconvenient to carry around a magical microwave.
Like I just pull it out of like a bag like Mary Poppins, maybe.
I mean, you are magical, so
Yeah.
probably you can, but I really like to imagine you in your sort of non-magical form just always holding a full microwave.
Through the streets of Pennsylvania.
Having through the streets of Pennsylvania, just having to find an outlet before you can transform. Fuck, I need somewhere to plug this in.
Where's my extension cord?
Whew, magic. That's what that is. Diamond, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me about magical girls today.
Of course, anytime. I usually talk to Zoe about it, whether she likes it or not, so.
Ugh, perfect.
Yeah.
Now everybody gets to pretend to be Zoe.
Yeah.
Making Worlds is a Witch Please production, and if you're watching this, there's a pretty good chance that you are a Patreon supporter of Witch Please Productions, which means that you are personally responsible for the existence of Making Worlds and also Material Girls, because honestly, if we can't pay the people who do all of the things, we're not gonna make any of this. That's just how capitalism works. But you understand that because you are spending money on the things that matter to you. So thank you. If you want more from Witch Please Productions, you can head over to our website, ohwitchplease.ca, where you can see all of our shows, all of our episodes, our merch, our transcripts, our reading lists, and sign up for other cool things like our Substack as well as our Patreon. You're probably already signed up for our Patreon, but maybe you're not, in which case head over to patreon.com/ohwitchplease, because in addition to this great show, there's a ton of other really cool extra stuff that you get. You can also follow us online. We're on Instagram and, some of those other platforms at Oh Witch Please, and that's where we share information about all of our shows, including, of course, Making Worlds. Thank you to everyone on the Witch Please Productions team who makes this show possible. Our producer is Zoe Mix. Our associate producer and editor is Gabby Iori. The executive producer at Witch Please Productions is Hannah Rehack. And of course, the love of my life and my ongoing collaborator, co-founder of Witch Please Productions is Marcel Cosman. Special thanks to Jay Arner and Jessica Delisle for writing our magical theme song, which feels particularly appropriate for today's episode. And thank you to Zoe Mix for designing our beautiful logo and the opening animation that greeted you at the beginning of this episode. We'll be back next month to talk about a whole new piece of media that helps us to imagine the world otherwise. In the meantime, why don't you go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel and tell all your friends about how cool the show is and how good I am at looking straight at the camera. Tell them I'm great at it, because I am. How's that?